Lady of Lines of Rabindranath Tagore. This will include paintings of Indian women by many different artists, all from the early modern era of India. Rabindranath Tagore was hailed in his lifetime as a living embodiment of Indian culture and its greatest spokesman. People often ask me about the meaning of my pictures. I remain silent, even as my pictures are. It is for them to express and not to explain. They have nothing ulterior behind their own appearance for the thoughts to explore and words to describe, and that appearance carries its ultimate worth. 13 images of Tagore himself will come now as a kind of introduction. He is best known for his poetry, short stories, fable, drama, songs, and philosophy. He was born in 1861 into a wealthy and cultured family in Bengal, northeastern India. The Tagores were already a leading family in religious and artistic circles, wealthy landowners, art collectors, and patrons of Kolkata, called Calcutta for many years. Rabindranath traveled and lectured extensively around the world and met with eminent thinkers and writers of his day, including George Bernard Shaw, William Butler Yeats, Albert Einstein, and H.G. Wells, Robert Frost, Frank Lloyd Wright, to name a few. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913. His influence has surpassed all geographical and spiritual boundaries. Later in life, he tried his hand at painting, and we'll see quite a few of his paintings. The main text will be entirely of his own words, either in his original English or in his own translations from his Bengali. Tagore's father had founded an ashram near Kolkata in 1862, which he called Shantiniketan, Abode of Peace. Later, Tagore transformed it into an open-air school, which evolved into an international university where both East and West meet to strengthen world peace. Tagore mentions it here briefly, Shantiniketan. His words will explain his own experience of the creative process of his writing and of his painting. Tagore, Sri Aurobindo wrote, is a poet and an intuitive seer. He has a mind, he said, of the most distinctive and original genius. These portraits of him are by various contemporaries of his, including several by his nephews, Rabindranath and Gitanjali. And this is his funeral procession in abstract, by Rabindranath, called The Last Journey. The readings will be from his famous Gitanjali, Stray Birds, Chitralipi, and Tagore anthologies. Most passages about his art are in personal letters to family and friends. The rest are from his published poetry and prose. Many governments have honored him with stamps over the years, from South America, Africa, to Vietnam. Mostly the Indian government, of course. Next, a series of 21 paintings by Tagore himself to give a general idea of his style or styles. But most of the paintings that we'll see in this Lady of Lines are by different artists of the early modern era. That means the late 19th century to the first half of the 20th century, and they represent a variety of styles. The artists were mostly men, but some women painters as well. The images will be mixed together a bit in various parts of the presentation. Some sections have a visual cohesiveness in style of painting, some sections in mood, but most are related in content. I have here tried to produce a synthesis of Tagore's writings on women and on his painting, but all illustrations of women. One aspect of one culture, many ladies of lines. My hope, then, is to give impressions of being a woman, a subject of art, a real image of reverence, a symbol of love, from the pencils and brushes of many painters. Tagore's ladies of art, like these two, will come at the very end of the presentation. Remember that his words were not meant to describe the paintings that we'll see, nor were the paintings made to go with the writings used. I have just put them together in an expressive and reflective way. They are to give a feeling, an impression of being a lady of India. Most all words that follow now are Tagore's, and still there will be 9 more of his paintings. I write letters as I paint pictures. When I feel prompted to write, I put down whatever comes to my head. It is the same with my pictures. I suddenly see a figure within my mind. Now an idea, now an image rises up in the mind to assume different forms. It is with them that my pen has to do. My mind has its eyes open to the world of forms and the crowds of lines. I understand that the world is a pageant of forms. My pen seeks to join in the play of those forms, not emotion, not sentiment, not thought, but an assemblage of forms. The surprising thing is that there is a deep joy in this, and an intoxication. These are the last of Tagore's paintings, for now, until the end. Lady of Lines, these words are not an alien invasion come to set a limit to your realm. They are but some noisy birds that for a moment flit across your garden, while your meaning lies beyond their chirpings. Look, today is Sunday, market day. There's a bullock cart passing in front of me, and my eyes turn into passengers riding in the cart. Look, there go the Santal girls with bundles of straw on their heads. Goes Santosh Babu's herd girl, driving her herd of buffaloes. There go some people from the station towards Golapara. The flat-bottomed coconut shell for smoking tobacco hangs from somebody's hand. Somebody carries a torn umbrella over the head, and somebody else a naked baby on the shoulder. See, there come the girls from Bhuvandanga, water pitchers at their hips, to fetch water from our Shanti-Niketan wells. I let my mind float with the current of all of this, and sit here in silence. From the known to the unknown, the girl bride will sail. The boat will be sailing upstream, and darkness descends on the horizon. O girl bride, to which village will you sail? The festival flute has filled the twilight sky with tender melodies of the evening. Your girl companions have dressed you in robes of crimson, secretly drying their tears. The ripple of waves seems to babble this to the winds. Countless brides have sailed this way, gazing at yonder bank. From the known to the unknown sails the girl bride, swaying between tears and smiles, leaving one home she has to find anew in the heart of the unknown. Look, yonder village waits for you. Make haste to reach it before nightfall. Through what countless centuries have not been apprehensive brides crowding that landing place. We are no longer necessary to her. Since one must give away a daughter, why try to retain any influence over her? After marriage, a girl should keep away from her parents and give herself unrestricted opportunity for being with her husband. The habits and tastes of her husband's family are not the same as those of her own, and there are bound to be differences of opinion. Let her bind herself to her new home without pain and fulfill her life with faith and affection and household duties. With her respect for and dependence upon her husband, let there be no regrets in our hearts. The day is no more. The shadow is now upon the earth. It is time that I go to the stream to fill my pitcher. The evening air is eager with the sad music of the water. Ah, it calls me out into the dusk. In the lonely lane there is no passer-by. The wind is up. The ripples are rampant in the river. I know not if I shall come back home. I know not whom I shall chance to meet. There, at the fording in the little boat, the unknown man plays upon his lute. I asked nothing from thee. I uttered not my name to thine ear. When thou took'st thy leave, I stood silent. I was alone by the well where the shadow of the tree fell aslant, and the women had gone home with their brown earthen pitchers full to the brim. They called me and shouted, "Come with us, the morning is wearing on to noon." But I languidly lingered a while, lost in the midst of vague musings. I heard not thy steps as thou camest. Thine eyes were sad when they fell on me. Thy voice was tired as thou spokest low. Ah, I am a thirsty traveler. I started up from my daydreams and poured water from my jar on thy joined palms. The leaves rustled overhead. The cuckoo sang from the unseen dark, and the perfume of babla flowers came from the bend in the road. I stayed speechless with shame when my name thou didst ask. Indeed, what had I done for thee to keep me in remembrance? But the memory that I could give water to thee to allay their thirst will cling to my heart and enfold it in sweetness. The morning hour is late, the bird sings in weary notes, neem leaves rustle overhead, and I sit and think and think. Not only in poetry, but in all art, the mind of the artist must attain a certain degree of aloofness. The creator within man must be allowed the sole control. In perfect rhythm, the art form becomes like the stars, which in their seeming stillness are never still. Like a motionless flame that is nothing but movement. A picture is always speaking, but news from a newspaper is stillborn. Art has the magic wand which gives undying reality to all things it touches, and it relates them to the personal being in us all. Where dost thou stand behind them all, my lover, hiding thyself in the shadows? They push thee and pass thee by on the dusty road, taking thee for naught. I wait here weary hours, spreading my offerings for thee, while passers-by come and take my flowers one by one, and my basket is nearly empty. The morning time is past, and the noon. In the shade of evening my eyes are drowsy with sleep. Men going home glance at me and smile and fill me with shame. I sit like a beggar maid, drawing my shirt over my face, and when they ask me what it is that I want, I drop my eyes and answer them not. Oh, how, indeed, could I tell them that for thee I wait, and that thou hast promised to come? How could I utter for shame that I keep for my dowry this poverty? Ah, I hug this pride in the secret of my heart. I sit on the grass and gaze upon the sky, and dream of the sudden splendor of thy coming. All the lights ablaze, golden pendants flying over thy car, and they at the roadside standing agape. When they see thee come down from thy seat to raise me from the dust, and set at thy side this ragged beggar girl, all a-tremble with shame and pride, like a creeper in a summer breeze. But time glides on, and still no sound of the wheels of thy chariot. Many a procession passes by with noise and shouts and glamour of glory. Is it only thou who wouldst stand in the shadow silent and behind them all? And only I who would wait and weep and wear out my heart in vain longing. We perceive the fact of a picture by seeing it. We know it by measuring its lines, analyzing its colors, and studying the laws of harmony in its composition. But even then, it is no realization of the picture, for which we want an intimate union with it, immediate to ourselves. But in pure art, it is a personal communication. And therefore, until it finds its harmony in the depth of our personality, it misses its mark. Art is the expression of the universal through the individual. I came out alone on my way to my tryst, but what is this that follows me in the silent dark? I move aside to avoid its presence, but I escape not. It makes the dust rise from the earth with its swagger. It adds its loud voice to every word that I utter. It is my own little self, my Lord, and knows no shame, but I am ashamed to come to thy door in its company. That which is abundant sings, and in it we find our joy. Art reveals man's wealth of life, which seeks its freedom in forms of perfection, which are an end in themselves. This is art, the truth of which is not in substance or logic, but in expression. Abstract truth may belong to science and metaphysics, but the world of reality belongs to art. For art is Maya. It has no other explanation but that it seems to be what it is. It never tries to conceal its evasiveness. It mocks even its own definition. And it plays the game of hide and seek through constant flight in changes. This body is not a mere convenient sack for the purpose of holding stomach, heart, lungs, and brains. It is an image. Its highest value lies in the fact that it communicates its personality. It has color, shape, and movement, most of which belongs to the superfluous. But that is needed only for self-expression and not for self-preservation. Self-forgetting, and in a higher degree, self-sacrifice, is our acknowledgement of our experience of the infinite. This explains our joy in all arts. The arts in their creation intensify the sense of the unity of truth that we carry within ourselves. O beauty, find thyself in love, not in the flattery of thy mirror. Woman, when you move about in your household service, your limbs sing like a hill stream among its pebbles. She dwelt here by the pool with its landing stairs in ruins. Many an evening she had watched the moon made dizzy by the shaking of the leaves. And on many a rainy day the smell of the wet earth had come to her over the young shoots of rice. Her pet name is known here among those date palm groves, and in the courtyards where girls sit and talk while stitching their winter quilts. The water in this pool keeps in its depth the memory of her swimming limbs. Her wet feet had left their marks there day after day, on the footpath leading to the village. The women who came today with their vessels to the water have all seen her smile over simple jests. The old peasant, taking his bullocks to their bath, used to stop at her door every day to greet her. Many a traveler takes rest beneath that tree, but they never notice this spot by the road, near the pool with its ruined landing stairs, where dwelt she whom I love. I believe that the vision of paradise is to be seen in the sunlight and the green of the earth, seen in the beauty of the human face and the wealth of human life, even in objects that are seemingly insignificant and unprepossessing. Everywhere in this earth the spirit of paradise is awake and sending forth its voice. It reaches our inner ear without our knowing it. Tunes our harp of life, which sends our aspiration in music beyond the infinite. Aspiration in prayers and hopes, in temples which are flames of fire in stone, in pictures which are dreams made everlasting, and aspiration in dance which is ecstatic meditation in the still center of movement. The name she called me by, like a flourishing jasmine, covered the whole 17 years of our love. With its sound mingled the quiver of the light through leaves, the scent of the grass in the rainy night, and the sad silence of the last hour of many an idle hour. Not the work of God alone was he who answered to that name. She created him again for herself during those 17 swift years. Other years were to follow, but their vagrant days no longer gathered within the fold of that name, uttered in her voice. They stray and are scattered. They ask me, who should fold us? I find no answer and stand silent. And they cry to me while dispersing, we seek a shepherdess. Whom should they seek? They do not know. And like derelict evening clouds, they drift in the trackless dark and are lost and forgotten. It interests me deeply to watch how lines find their life and character as their connection with each other develops in varied cadences, and how they begin to speak in gesticulations. I can imagine the universe to be a universe of lines. Lines in their movements and combinations pass on their signal of existence along the chain of moments. Rocks in the clouds, the trees, the waterfalls, the dance of the fiery orbs. The endless procession of life, all send up across silent eternity and limitless space a symphony of gestures. The gestures mingle with the dumb wail of lines that are widowed gypsies roaming about for a chance union of fulfillment. Bring beauty and order into my forlorn life, woman, as you brought them into my house when you lived. Sweep away the dusty fragments of the hours, fill the empty jars, and mend all that has been neglected. Then open the inner door of the shrine, light the candle, and let us meet there in silence before our God. Lines have come to possess me. I cannot shake them off. They reveal themselves to me in ever-new gestures. There is no end to their mystery. The unmanifest binds himself by means of lines in ever-new finite forms. In size, the forms he gives himself may be limited, but in their variety, they are infinite. And so it comes to this, that fullness of expression can only be achieved through limitation. The joy that pictures bring is the joy of definiteness. Within the restraint of lines, we see the particular with distinctness. Whenever I see a thing with exactness, I touch the infinite and feel delighted. On the slope of the desolate river among tall grasses, I asked her, "Maiden, where do you go, shading your lamp with your mantle? My house is all dark and lonesome. Lend me your light." She raised her dark eyes for a moment and looked at my face through the dusk. "I have come to the river," she said, "to float my lamp on the stream when the daylight wanes in the west." I stood alone among tall grasses and watched the timid flame of her lamp uselessly drifting in the tide. In the silence of gathering night, I asked her, "Maiden, your lights are all lit. Then where do you go with your lamp? My house is all dark and lonesome. Lend me your light." She raised her dark eyes on my face and stood for a moment, very doubtful. "I have come," she said, at last, "to dedicate my lamp to the sky." I stood and watched her light uselessly burning in the void. In the moonless gloom of midnight, I asked her, "Maiden, what is your quest, holding the lamp near your heart? My house is all dark and lonesome. Lend me your light." She stopped for a minute and thought and gazed at my face in the dark. "I have brought my light," she said, "to join the carnival of lamps." I stood and watched her little lamp so uselessly lost among lights. When our heart is fully awakened in love, or in other great emotions, our personality is in its flood tide. It feels the longing to express itself for the very sake of expression. Then comes art, and we forget the claims of necessity, the thrift of usefulness. And the spires of our holy temples try to kiss the stars, and the notes of our music to fathom the depth of the ineffable. Love is kindred to art. It is inexplicable. Duty can be measured by the degree of its benefit, utility by the project and power it may bring. But art can be measured by nothing but itself. There are other factors of life which are visitors that come and go. But art is the quest that comes and remains. The others may be important, but art is inevitable. There you find behind the scene the artist, the magician of rhythm, who imparts an appearance of substance to the unsubstantial. It is for the artist to proclaim faith in the everlasting yes, to say, "I believe that there is an ideal hovering over and permeating the earth." It is an ideal of that paradise which is not the mere outcome of fancy, but the ultimate reality in which all things dwell and move. I traveled the old road every day. I took my fruits to the market, my cattle to the meadows. I ferried my boat across the stream, and all the ways were well known to me. One morning my basket was heavy with wares. Men were busy in the fields, the pastures crowded with cattle. The breast of the earth heaved with the mirth of ripening rice. Suddenly there was a tremor in the air, and the sky seemed to kiss me on the forehead. My mind started up like the morning out of mist. I forgot to follow the track. I stepped a few paces from the path, and my familiar world appeared strange to me, like a flower I had only known in bud. My everyday wisdom was ashamed. I went astray in the fairyland of things. It was the best luck of my life that I lost my path that morning and found my eternal childhood. Lady of lines, these words are not an alien invasion come to set a limit to your realm. They are but some noisy birds that for a moment flit across your garden, while your meaning lies far beyond their chirpings. The principal news about me from day to day is that I am drawing pictures. Lines have spread their magic net over my entire mind. It is so fascinating because it is so unpremeditated. At the very beginning, the thought of a poem suggests itself to the mind and comes cascading down the tip of the pen. And then the rhythms begin to flow. But in the pictures I try to draw, the method of composition is just the reverse. The first faint suggestion of lines come from the pen itself. Then, as these lines begin to assume familiar forms, the mind starts to take cognizance of them. The wonder of these fascinates the mind. I am hopelessly entangled in the spell that the lines have cast all around me. I have almost managed to forget that there used to be a time when I wrote poetry. The world of sound is a tiny bubble in the silence of the infinite. The universe has its only language of gestures. It talks in the voice of pictures and of dance. Every object in this world proclaims, as the dumb signal of lines and colors, the fact that it is unique in itself. It carries the miracle of existence. These last images now will be Tagore's words relating to specific pictures. The meeting of hearts leaves its trace on the screen of silence. The eyes, seeking for the enigma of things, explore the boundless nothing. The black and white threads weave the destiny of man into a mystery of entanglements. The day's gains and losses are lost to their sight when they gaze at an unrevealed promise gleaning out from the dark. The phantoms of faces come unbidden into my vacant hours. She is the woman ever strange to me, and yet I seem to know her. The picture of the tender, engraved on the stony hard. A strange face, uninvited, hovers before my brush, making me wonder whence does it appear. The Ladies of Lines of Rabindranath Tagore. Finally, his self-portrait, 5 years before he died.